today, and I'll send it off to him. Okay, so we're now on record, so anything you do now is going to be recorded, and everybody will be able to see when I text or link this out. Okay, so on the assignment paper, and I don't know if you can split screen it or whatever. Here, I'll pull it up myself. Let me share my screen. This one. Share. Okay, so if you can see over here, it starts off on number 1. It says, state whether the ordered pair, can you guys see that screen? Yes? Okay. It says, state whether the ordered pair is a solution to the equation. Okay? So basically what you do is you remember when I said we have an ordered pair, the first number is what letter? The first number in an ordered pair is what letter? You guys give me an answer. What?
X.
That's right, X. The second number then is?
Y.
Y. Okay, so basically what you got to do, if you can see my screen here, is take our equation, 2x minus y equals 8, and substitute in the numbers for x and y and see if that works. So in that A, it would be 2x times 3 minus 2 equals 8. Okay? So when we do that, 2 times 3 is 6, and then 6 minus 2 makes 4. So we know that A is not the answer. Okay? Does that make sense? Then you move on to the next one, and you try putting in 1 and -2. Now you have to be careful when they put in negatives, okay? Because we got to think about what happens when you have the opposite of a negative. You remember doing this, you have to think about your integer rules a little bit, okay? So 2 times 1 is 2. The opposite of -2 is +2. So 2 plus 2 is 4. That one still didn't work. But let's look at that last one. And the ordered pair is 3 and -2. Okay? So now we got 2 times 3 is 6. And then the opposite of -2 is +2. That actually does work. Okay, do you see how that works? So the answer to number 1 would be C. Okay? Now, I want you to make sure and try to do every single ordered pair because there might be more than one correct answer. Okay? So when we go to do 2 and 3 on those, there could be more than one correct answer. Be careful and watch out for negative signs. Okay, so that's how you do. I've already done number 1 for you. We know the answer is C. So if you want to put that down somewhere, make sure you let you know that the answer to number 1 is C. Okay. Moving on. Okay, after 2 and 3, we're going to go down to 4 here. Okay, very similar in nature. Okay, except they're only going to give us one, and you have to solve for the other. Okay, so here's the instruction. It says, use the equation to find the value of y when x has a given value. So basically, they're saying, if x is this, what's the answer to y? Okay, so when we go through to do that kind of a problem, let's set up, let's do number 7. Okay, 5x plus 2y equals 22, and then it has off to the side, semicolon, x equals 2. So that means I'm going to take that 2 and substitute it in where x is, right here. So now I got 5 times 2 equals 2y, or plus 2y equals 22. Okay? So I'm just going to do a little bit of integer work here, and just like what we've done in the past. Now, if you remember our integer rules, okay, we'll combine like terms, then we'll isolate the variable y and then get only one y to figure out what y is, okay? So I'm going to step you through how to do that. So my next step is to take 5 times 2, and that gives me 10 plus 2y equals 22. Now, I isolate my 2y by getting rid of 10. How do I do that? Opposite operation, which means I'm going to do what? What do you think we need to do here? One of you two answer for me.
Subtract 2y?
You need to unmute yourself there, Jamie, in order to.
Yeah.
So I'm not subtracting 2y. I'm going to subtract 10 to both sides. Okay, like that. So then my answer is 2y equals 12. And then my last step is to do what?
Divide?
Yep, divide by what?
2.
Yes, divide by 2 on both sides. What did y end up being?
6.
6. And that's how you do those problems. So you're solving for the value of y every time, okay? And substituting in the value of x, and then going and solving for the other letter. Any questions on that? We just did number 7, and there's our answer for it. Y equals 6. Okay. Now I think the rest of our problems. Hold on. Let me look. I'm going to flip over to the other sheet, other side, other paper. Okay. Yep. The rest of our problems all have to do with graphing this. Okay. So, in order to graph, we have to do something. It's called making a T-chart. So I'm going to pick one of our problems on this page, and then I'm going to go and pick one of the problems with the fraction on another page so that we can talk about how those look different. Okay, so let's do problem number 9 on this page. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to break off from my share screen so I can show you how to do this on the bigger screen and me demonstrating. Okay, so we're going to start off with y equals negative 2x minus 1. Okay, I'm just going to stop sharing here. And then I'm going to change to speaker view, except Maddie's in the speaker view for some reason. Put on mute, Maddie. See if mine doesn't come off of there. Doggone. How come every time that we have speaker view, it goes directly to you? This happened the last time. Okay, we'll go back to gallery. Never mind, you can take your mute back off if you want. I'm gonna have to figure that out, why it does that. Okay. All right. Okay. So we can see that we have this here. Now we create what's called a T-chart. All right. Notice my T-chart over here that I have an X and I have a Y side. So what I'm doing is I'm creating what's called ordered pairs to figure out what numbers would work in this situation, because there's more than one set of numbers that will work for this. Okay, whenever I decide whatever x is, that will make a decision for y. Now I always tell everybody, make it easy on yourself. Don't try to make this super difficult. Okay, my favorite choices to use are usually 1, 0, and -1. I want you to find 3 sets of ordered pairs. Okay, so what we do is we're deciding, we're making a choice. We're saying, well, what would the answer be if I said x was 0? Okay, so what if x was 0? And this is the easiest one typically, because then when we substitute it in, we've got -2 times 0 minus 1, right? I substituted in 0. So when I take -2 times 0, I get 0, right? And that means what I have left is 0 minus 1. Okay, so what that ended up giving me is y will equal -1. So when I get that answer, I'm sorry, I have construction right next door. I didn't know they were going to do that today. Thought they were done yesterday. When we get y equals -1, then all of a sudden we can just put -1 over here for my y, my first pair. I wish they would have done this earlier, and that way we wouldn't have had this. Okay, so now what I do is, okay, let's say, what if x was 1? Okay, so now I go back through the same thing, and then in this parentheses, I put in 1. Okay, so what happens now? I get -2 times 1, which would give me -2. My y answer is now going to change. What's -2 minus 1? Or plus a -1? Do you remember how we did those, where we changed the sign? If the signs are the same, add and keep the sign there. Some integer rules we need to go back and remember. So now we have -2 plus -1. That means y is -3. Okay, now let's alternate or switch it and go with, what if x was -1? Okay, now we go back through. -2 times -1. Since they're both negative, that makes it a +2 minus 1. And so now y ends up 2 minus 1 gives us 1. So over here, I've got 3 sets of ordered pairs. Now, what I do is I take and graph it. And that's why there's that graph paper on your worksheets. Okay? If you can't use those worksheets or print them off, that's okay. Make your own kind of graph somehow. If you want to do it on the Word doc like we did the other one, you can do that. Here's the trick. My ordered pairs over here, 0, -1, 1, -3, -1, 1. When we put them on the graph over here, they should create a straight line. Let's see how Mr. Lindblad did. Okay, so I don't have to go more than -3, and that's going to 1, 2, 3, going down. -1 on one side, 1 on the other. So this is -1, this is 1, there's 0, and then -1, -2, -3 going down. Okay? You look at my grid there, I've given my points. Now, to graph 0, -1, remember, the first number goes left and right, the second number goes up and down. So my first one is 0. It doesn't go left or right, but it goes down 1. So there's where my first point is, right there. 0, -1. My second point is 1, -3. So I go over 1 and down 3. 1, 2, 3. Should be right there. My next point is -1, and I actually have to go up 1. -1, 1. So you can see I've got a point here, and a point here. And then I take a straight edge and connect those lines. Notice it created a straight line. If my line looks a little bit crooked, I might have put in the wrong points. So there's a lot of things to do on each of these problems. You've got to give me 3 points on a T-chart, okay? By substituting in numbers. Remember, don't make it hard. Make x 0, make x 1, and make x negative 1. Typically, those are the ones you want to use. Now, the next one I show you, it's going to have a fraction on it, and I'll show you how to work around fractions a little bit to help you out so it's easier to figure things out. Okay? Questions here before I move on? Maddie shaking her head no. Okay, Jamie says no too. Okay, so this is number 9. All right, remember that, number 9 here. Okay, and our end product is what we're looking for over here, but I do want to see your T-chart over here. So show me your T-chart of the pairs you used, the numbers you used, and then graph it correctly. That'll be important. Lots of factors to think about here. Let's look at another one. Okay, I'm going to go to page 2, and I have it right here on my paper. Okay, let me share my screen real quick. Okay, so we did number 9, y equals negative 2x minus 1. But if we go to the next screen, let's do number 12. That looks a little interesting there. Okay, it'll be very similar to number 11 there. Okay, but number 12, let me write that one down. Okay, so I've got y equals negative 1/3 x plus 1. Okay, I'm going to stop sharing my screen here so you can see this. Okay. First thing we do, make that T-chart. X, Y. Okay? Next thing. Okay. Since whatever X is, we're going to multiply it times the number in front of it. We can still use 0 for the first one. That's an easy one to do. Okay? The next ones, though, use a number that will be divisible by the number on the bottom. Okay? So don't use 1, don't use negative 1. Use the number that's divisible by 3. So I would use 3 and negative 3 is what I would use, because that's divisible by 3. And it's easy. It'll give me 1. Okay? Or negative 1, depending on how you multiply it. Okay? So I'm just trying to make it easy for you. I'm trying to make you to think about it a little bit and make it easy for yourself to solve these. Okay? Let me move my cursor out of the way. There we go. Now, let's start by substituting in our numbers now. So the first one will be negative 1/3 times 0 plus 1 equals y. So when we do that, 0 times anything is 0. And so that gives me 0 plus 1. So y will equal what? 1, right? So on my first ordered pair, it's 0, 1. Okay? Everybody see that? Now, what do I do with this 3 here? Tell me.
Negative 2 times 3.
Yeah, negative 1/3 times 3. Thank you, Maddie. Okay, so when I do that, I end up getting negative 3 over 3. So 3 over 3 is 1 with a negative sign in front of it. So that gives me negative 1 plus 1. And so y on that one will be da, 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 0. So my second ordered pair is going to be 3, 0. Maddie's got a frown on her face. You're figuring that out? Understand that? Okay. All right, last one. Now we take negative 3 and substitute it back in over here, right there. Now I take negative 3 times a negative 1/3. So instead of negative 3 over 3, this time I just get a positive 3 over 3 because the negatives cancel each other out when we multiply. Even amount of negative signs makes a positive answer when you multiply. Remember that? So then that doesn't become negative 1, but it's 1. And so 1 plus 1 gives me 2. So my third ordered pair is a negative 3, 2. Okay, now it's time to graph it. All right, I'm going to erase my middle of my board here so I can show my graph. Okay, and I can tell according to my ordered pairs. Oh, I can't move my camera. There, I got to move myself. That my biggest x value is going to be 3, and my lowest x value is negative 3. My biggest y value is 2, and my lowest y value is 0. So I'm going to go up at least 2. 1, 2. Going to go over 1, 2, 3. Go back 3. Negative 1, negative 2, negative 3. Okay, I know that's hard to see. I wrote really tiny. So then I go 0, 1. 0 means that I don't go left or right, but I do go up 1. So my first point goes there, 0, 1. My next point is 3. So I go over 3, 1, 2, 3. And I don't go down any. Uh-oh, Mr. Lindblad did something wrong. Because that's 3, 0. This is negative. No, I didn't. Negative 3 and 2. Up 2. 1, 2. Nope. It's just a really flat line. I got to bring my 2 down just a little bit. On graph paper, it'll look better. And then my line goes right through there. It's just a very flat line. Like that. Okay. So that last one, I went back 3. 1, 2, 3. Up 2. 1, 2. And then my line's connected like that to make a straight diagonal line. That one was number 12. Okay. I might have time to do one more. You want me to do one more? No? Got it? Okay. All right. Remember how to do this T-chart over here, deciding on what numbers you're going to use X. So you got a little bit of control. You got control in deciding what X will be. You have to decide that and then substitute that number in for X to find out what the Y is. Okay. Good luck at this. All right. We'll see how it goes. I might actually extend this one more day on this just to see. We'll see. Okay. We'll see how it goes. I don't know if the others will get things turned in or not. Okay. All right. Good luck on this. Go after it. Any other questions? The good of the cause? No? Okay. I'm going to let you go. All right? Good luck on this, okay? Any parting comments to one another you need to say?
Sammy, you want to call? Sure. Okay. Bye. Bye.
All right. See you later, ladies.